Welcome, everybody. This is part of our spring series, which is also included in our monthly boot camp. I know that some colleagues on the call today have been with us for more than a year, so we're always honored to support you on your journey, whether that is certification or recertification, because I see some colleagues also that are already certified. We're going to get into our content today where we're going to talk about bridging that theory to CNE success gap. We know Patricia Benner's theory is around bridging theory to practice. But before we jump into our content, we are delighted to have Donna Hendrix with us today. She recently was successful on the CNE exam, and so we're going to ask her a couple of questions, and then we'll open it up for everyone to see if there are questions from our live group today. So welcome, Donna. How are you this morning?
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm great.
Excellent. Well, we're so excited for you. First of all, congratulations on being
Thank
successful. Donna was part of our CNE in 60 Days program. We're going to ask her about 3 questions, and then we'll open it up for everyone. So let's go ahead and get started, Donna. If you just want to share with the group a little bit about yourself and your educator role and what you're doing.
So, for my experience, the CNE in 60 days was very good. It was exactly what I needed, and it was compressed, and it helped me focus on what I needed to know. My backstory is I did attempt the CNE several years ago, and I cannot remember. I probably repressed it. It was around 2018 or maybe even 17 that I took it the first time. And I missed it by just a smidgen. It was just a few points, but I was just like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe it. I left just numb. So after that, it just took me a while. I said, at first I was going to study on my own and retake it immediately. And then I just got cold feet and just froze. And for my FPMS, the appraisal each year, my goal was to pass the CNE. And so then I finally said, I'm never going to do this. Stop putting that goal. So this year I put that goal back in. And funny thing is, I changed all my passwords. So if you make it a dominant goal, it's just psychology. You're going to pass the CNE or something that is going to equate with you're doing this goal. And each day and every time I logged in, it was a reminder, you've got to do this. You've got to do this.
Oh, that's wonderful, Donna. You've said so many great things already, but if we could go back and talk about what led you, you think, to taking it off your list and then putting it back on. Sounds like you went through a little bit of an epiphany to give yourself a stretch goal. Can you share kind of what led to you making that decision?
Yes. Basically it was a personal goal and just a professional goal. I don't have any further certifications. And then my husband laughed. He's like, now you just got through one. Now you're working on another. I said, for years, I had my NASA and I was a school nurse and that was all I had. Then I went into education. And so, yes, it is important to be certified. And so with this, that was my goal, just to get certified, a personal goal, a professional goal. And that was it. I was like, I want that title. I just want it.
Yeah, that's
And
amazing.
that was my epiphany. I'm going to do it. I just made up my mind and said, I'm going to do it this time.
Yeah, and I think it aligns with exactly what the research tells us is about that mindset. We at Dr. Sellars Educate talk about 80% is putting in the work because you still have to study, you have to have that dedicated time, which tends to be a barrier, which we're going to talk about shortly. But then that second element, that 20% that we like to talk about is mindset. So you making a decision that you were going to achieve a goal, even though it had been 7 years ago. Can you believe when you said 17 or 18, how many years had passed?
I know, isn't that crazy? That is just like, oh my gosh, really? Was it that long? But yeah, and the pandemic really did change things because 2020 put everything on pause. And then I believe a lot of the certification exams were on pause then. So you couldn't go to the testing centers. And then it slowly opened up in 21. So, and then not everything around here was opened up. So it did.
Yes, you're right. The pandemic definitely did affect, I think, a lot of people's time frames for taking the CNE exam. And you said something else that was very powerful that we talk about as well. And that is when it comes to the resources that we need to be successful, oftentimes we're not sure where to start. So three things happen. Number one, we think about the time commitment and we're concerned that we may not have enough time. And then that second challenge is the fact that we have some anxiety about not being successful, especially if we've gone down that journey before and we got distracted, it moved off of our list because we know life happens. And then that third element that I want to talk about is the financial piece. We know that the exam is expensive, the prep resources can be expensive. Tell us about the resources you use, Donna, to help you with time management and that financial piece.
So for time management, having this at least 1 hour, hour and a half a week, that did help. As far as my teaching load this semester, the past 7 weeks was a little bit lighter for me. So I would say, look at your load and say, is this just a little bit of a time break that you can devote? And if it is that season, take advantage of that season. As far as the timeline of it will take you 20 hours this week, 30 hours this week, da, da, da. I did not focus as much on that. And I will back up 2 steps. I had COVID, so I was sick for 2 weeks.
Right, I remember
And
that.
so I thought I was going to have to reschedule the exam because of that. And then once I recovered and I had my mental ability back to focus, then I just took that whole week that, I could be doing other things, but I just zoomed in and kind of made up time. So yes, not every week did I vote 10 plus hours, but there were a few weeks that I did zoom in and I probably put in a good 20 hours of studying for that sector. And I think it also depends on the competencies you're focusing on.
That's exactly.
As far as finances, I was very, very fortunate and blown away that the school paid for the course. I did pay for the exam. I don't know if I'll be reimbursed. The college is the NLM member, so that helped $100 off on the exam. But even if they don't pay for the exam itself, at least they paid for the course.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
And I wasn't going to let that deter me from, what was it, $300-400 from the goal,
Yes, I think it's so great that you put everything in perspective too, Donna, because the reality is time is going to pass, whether we study for the exam or not. Donna has already talked about 7 years or so that passed by. There were some competing priorities, COVID being one of them, the pandemic being one of them, but that time goes by anyway. So you're going to look up and you're going to think, oh, I put that on my list 5 years ago. And that's the great thing that we shared in our newsletter, our email update this week, was today can be day one of you starting to take the next step towards CNE success, which is more of what we're going to talk about today. And then the other really important barrier that we hear from colleagues that Donna's already mentioned is that funding piece. And I think we have to be honest with ourselves and collaborate with our dean, our director, to say, this is really important to me. And I want the university to explore options to help me pay for preparation, because the number one reason why most nurse educator colleagues are not successful is because of lack of preparation. So we appreciate you, Donna, being here with us today. And our last question, and then we'll open it up for the audience to see if they have any questions, is related to an obstacle. If you could just identify one obstacle that you experienced along the way and how you overcame it, if you could share that with the group, I think that would be really helpful.
One major obstacle was getting COVID in the middle. I think it must have been week. It was right after boot camp. So it was what, week 3, 4. So right smack in the middle of it. So that was a major obstacle because I missed a session. And then the following week, you're playing catch up because you're still not well. And so it kind of snowballed. But once I decided and had the mindset, I'm doing it, the college paid for this. And a coworker, she just kind of put it in my ear, you know that they paid for it, you got to pass it. I was like, shut up, don't say that. No,
No pressure.
but it did kind of, you know, snap me back into it. Yeah, you're right. Okay, I'm doing this.
Yeah.
So a lot of it, I would say 95% was mindset. The other 5% was just, even if it stayed up, I stayed up till midnight a few nights on the weekends, just pressing through, looking at everything, looking through my books, all my notes, and through the way, and I guess it depends on what kind of learner you are. I'm a note taker. So some people, if they ever borrow my book and go, why'd you rewrite certain things? Well, as I would look at the YouTubes, I'd take notes, even if it was on the PowerPoint, because that's the way I learn.
Yes. Yeah,
So,
you're absolutely right.
yes,
We have to know what our learning style is, not just with our students, but with ourselves as well.
yes.
Great. All right. Well, thank you so much, Donna. I think this conversation was very helpful for our colleagues that are joining us live and some that may be watching this as a replay as well. So now I'll open it up for questions from colleagues that may be here. The only ask that we have is we want to maintain confidentiality of the CNE exam. So we're not able to ask Donna questions about the questions that were on the exam, but anything else you all want to ask Donna, feel free to come off mute and we'll be happy to have a conversation about your question.
Dr. Sellars, I just wanted to mention something. Good morning. How are you, first
Good
of all?
morning. I'm good. How are you, Karen?
No, Dr. Sellars is like my Dr. Sellars sister. I love her. But
Thank you.
I did want to say this. And first of all, congratulations for anyone who did pass. And you will pass as long as you follow what Dr. Sellars says, I promise you. But one thing I did want to mention is with the finances, you can sometimes negotiate and flip that because in my case, my university was very short on money and I knew that. But I didn't let that deter me from asking them for something. So I started out first with, can you pay for me to do the 60 days CNE? And when they saw the price, they was like, we really don't have that money. I said, okay, let's start what you do have. So I did get them to pay for the exam and I got them to pay for the practice NLN exam. So yes, I do have to pay out of my pocket for the resources, but you know what? At least I saved something because I put it on their onus that, okay, well, I told you I need resources. Now, I didn't say if I didn't pass. I said, if I were not to pass, then you would know that you need some other resources. Afterwards, I did tell them that I paid for the resources. And I told them that when money avails itself, we should budget that into that. And even for our students, for our new MSN program, and I'm going to talk to you about that later, Dr. Sellars, is try for at least the first graduating class to afford them those resources so we can look good when they graduate, that yes, they are CNE certified as well, CNE novice certified. So that's just another option I just wanted to put out there. Don't give up just because they won't pay for the actual resource. Ask them, will they pay for the test at least? Because that's at least breaking the ice. Now I have 2 more colleagues that are coming on board to be able to at least get them to pay for the test.
Yes, that's excellent advice, Karen. And we appreciate you having that insight and wanting to help your students because I teach at the graduate level as well. And that is definitely one of the recommendations that I have had with my administration as well, is to look at becoming an NLM member, as Donna mentioned, because that is going to save $100 on the exam right now. It's $500 if you're a non-NLM member, and it's $400 if you are. So asking your university if they would become an NLM member. One of the universities that we're supporting became an NLM member. They have cohorts that are in the CNE and 60 days program. So, and they are paying for the program because of exactly what you said, Karen. They went to the university administration and they had conversations, and now they're able to, first of all, have the resources they need, the support that they need, and the funding, because we all know that the return on the investment will happen at the university level. Yes, achieving CNE success is part of it, but the other part is moving forward on the journey. You do become a better nurse educator when you are preparing for the CNE exam, because we immerse ourselves in implementing those evidence-based teaching strategies. We talk about that in all the programs, even on our YouTube channel. So that's the other win, I think, when it comes to being on this journey, is that you do get immersed in these evidence-based teaching practices and community, like you all that are here. That's one of the strengths of our programs as well. We believe in establishing community. We tell our nursing students about how important that is, and we as nurse educators need a community as well, either within our university or in a group like with Dr. Sellars Educate. Thank you so much, Karen. Okay, and I think there was one question in the chat. I think, Donna, let's see. Is the test blueprint the same as 2023 or different in 2024? So yes, it's the same as 2023, and that's the one that, oh, Donna's saying, yep, exactly. So in the CNE in 60 Days program, we go over the blueprint in detail. That is our roadmap that we use along with Billings and Halstead Teaching and Nursing. It's the 6th edition. That's the one that the exam writers use to map the questions. And then the other resource is Dr. Caputi's CNE review book, the 2nd edition. So those are the two resources that we recommend. And if there isn't funding for you all to purchase Dr. Caputi's book, that's the Cliff Notes version, I like to say, but you must have Billings and Halstead. That is what we call the Bible when it comes to how to be an effective nurse educator. And then the 3rd resource that we have, well, technically 4th. So you have the Candidate Handbook, the 2023. You're using that test blueprint as your roadmap. The 2nd resource is Billings and Halstead Teaching and Nursing, and I'll put those in the chat for those that don't have them yet. And then the 3rd resource is going to be that candidate or Dr. Caputi's book, so her CNE review book. The 4th resource is our study workbook. So we use that in our CNE in 60 Days program, but that's an option for you as well on our website that you can purchase. The benefit of that is it maps out your 7-week study plan, and it also gives you content. We never had an intention, I like to tell colleagues, that we were going to develop a workbook, because we felt like that with Billings and Halstead, with the candidate handbook, with the blueprint, and Dr. Caputi's CNE review book, those were the only tools we needed. But our early adopters that were part of our program 3 years ago said, oh no, you need another tool for those that are visual and for those that really do like to take notes. As Donna mentioned, it's become a great resource for them. Excellent. Okay, so any last minute questions before we allow Donna to continue on her Saturday? Okay, Atika, you are welcome for this community. We just appreciate you all for showing up on a Saturday morning. Well, thank you so much, Donna, again, for being here. We appreciate you here at Dr. Sellars Educate. We're still celebrating your win, and we are so grateful that you let us know that you were successful.
Thank you. And I will say, I did take the self-assessment exam, as Karen had mentioned. It was like $65. And that did help. And actually that gave me confidence, because at the end, it will tell you your strengths and the ones that you were a little bit weaker in. So that did help. But for those who are very curious, yes, it is exactly what they say it is. And, you know, a lot on theory and the 3 domains.
Excellent. Yep. Thank you for that insight. And that's the other point that I would make. Donna talked about how she was very focused, following her study plan and individualizing it for her based on the hours that she had available, looking at her workload. So timing is important as well. You want to make sure that you're able to commit whatever that is. We talk about a 7-week study plan, but it may be a 10-week, it may be a 12-week, as I know some of the colleagues on the call can attest to, because we know life happens and sometimes we don't have control of those competing priorities, we like to say. However, we want to have a clear roadmap. And this is an analogy that we shared with colleagues last week. when we get in our car and we are going to a destination we're not familiar with, an example I like to use is we attended the GAIN conference 2 weeks ago in Georgia. Well, I had never been to Lake Lanier. I knew where Atlanta was, and we were driving. So the first thing I did when I got in the vehicle was I put it in my navigation system. I knew my endpoint was Lake Lanier. You know, your endpoint is achieving CNE success, but all the turns, the resources you need, the stops you may want to make, how long you're going to remain at that stop, stops being competencies. You're not exactly sure how much time it's going to take you to really grasp full comprehension of those concepts. That is exactly what the blueprint, the resources, the the study plan that we give you, that's exactly what it is. It's your navigation tool to ensure that you achieve success. So thank you, Donna, for being here and for sharing exactly, you know, some of those challenges you had that will help our colleagues, but also how you move through them in order to achieve success. And we wish you all the best, and keep in touch, Donna, and let us know if you need anything from us.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, everybody. So round of applause for Donna. Awesome job. We appreciate you sharing your journey with us.